morning, Bardstown and Nelson County. It's time for Bradford and Brooks. Jim Brooks and Margie Bradford with you again this week, this Wednesday morning. Margie, we have a beautiful sunny
gorgeous
day
out
outside.
there. Gorgeous out there. If
you,
I were a gardener, I'd be out gardening.
Well, I thought about trying to find some extension cords for our mic cables and run them outside and sit out there on the sidewalk.
We could do that. We could do that.
I think that would be a great idea.
I'm not an outdoors girl, but this kind of weather, I kind of could be. For a little while anyway.
That's right. That's right. Well, Margie and I are continuing our pretty long series of interviews with candidates for the May primary. And we're very pleased this morning to have MT Harned joining us in the studio. Good morning, MT, and thank you for taking time to join us.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you both for having me.
All right. Well, MT, you are a candidate for the 3rd District, a Republican candidate for the 3rd District magistrate seat. And you're one of 4 candidates that are facing off in the primary. Tell our listeners about who you are and where you hail from, things like that. A little bit about who MT is.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Well, just to go back and go way back, the Harned actually settled in Boston, Kentucky back in the mid-1800s. After that, my great-grandfather moved out of Boston 12 miles down the river on the Rolling Fork to Lyon Station. And that's kind of where he settled and raised 3 sons, which included my grandfather. And they had farmed, is what they did for a living back then, and it was around 2,000 acres. I was born and raised in New Haven by 2 wonderful parents, Marvin and Betty Ann. Marvin worked at the PBA office here in town for probably 35 plus years, retired twice, served the community and the county in that vicinity. My mom was a school teacher for over 40 years and retired from the Nelson County school system. She taught in the New Haven Elementary. Raised us along with my brother Kevin Harned, who's the meteorologist for Wave 3. We have both grandparents at the time, as I was growing up, operated small farms. One in Loretta, Kentucky, which was a dairy operation, and the other one down the Lyon Station, which was just a beef cattle and grain operation, and several other things that goes along with farming. So I graduated from Bethlehem High School in 1988. I married my high school sweetheart, Bobby, in 1990, and we've been married 32 short years. I graduated from Indiana University in 1993 with a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and also a minor in Finance. Moved back from college to Bardstown in 96, and we raised 3 kids. Brooke, who's a teacher, currently 3rd-year teacher at New Haven Elementary, teaches some of the same classes that my mom retired from. Trey, who works tirelessly for me at Bud's Produce, 50 plus hours, and Cruz, who's a sophomore at UK studying biomedical engineering. Then I worked as a financial advisor for over 4 years in Louisville for a national firm. Bought a small percentage of Bud's Produce when I got out of the financial business. That was in the October of 2002. Bought 50% in 2006, and I bought 100% of the company in 2011.
Now that's Bud Produce in Elizabethtown. If people listeners are curious.
Yes. Also, at the end of February, right before the pandemic, we ended up purchasing Loretta food land in Loretta, back in my mom's hometown. And I've sat on multiple school boards, currently finishing up my last year of a 3-year term for Bethlehem High School board. Volunteered at just numerous organizations. Some of the most beneficial and times that I've had on volunteers was with the Nelson County Community Clinic, St. Joe's Men's Club, as well as Flage's Cancer Center. Organized fundraisers for multiple sport teams, especially the ones that my kids were playing on, as well as FFA chapters throughout my career, especially with Bud's Produce, being able to help the FFA chapters do that. I've coached almost every sport you can imagine as my kids were growing up, from soccer being the first one, not playing soccer myself, had to learn the sport, learn to coach, and had great mentors during that time frame. Did basketball, baseball, football, volleyball, and even finished up with fishing. So that's kind of my sport. I was a high school 5th region official for 10 plus years, which helped thicken my skin a little bit in volleyball and basketball. So I've got the financial education, I've got the financial experience, I've got a strong, devout level of customer service. That's pretty much who I am and why I'm here. And I feel like I'm the right person at that right time for all those reasons.
All right. All right. I think we'll be able to hear you a little better, MT.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, I could hear you in headphones. Your volume was low.
Okay.
All right. Well, you
You covered a lot of questions we were going to ask.
We'll keep asking. I got more to talk about.
well now Judge Watts has frequently talked about the challenges ahead for the next fiscal court, and usually, you know, it's kind of like business in general. Your costs continue to increase, and the county's revenue is not increasing at a sufficient rate. But tell us, what are the three biggest challenges you see for the county as a magistrate?
Well, the top three that I have and that I've thought about and been at these court meetings for the past probably 4 months or going on 4 months, is the number one is industrial park. We're going to need industrial park land. Also, my number two is housing infrastructure, and my number three is the funding of the landfill expansion. So those three are my top three. I think that deserve the attention right away.
All right. I'm assuming that you would really, you've got such a great business background that really is going to be a big assist for you as judge executive, because basically as as magistrate, you're overseeing the business of the county, and you examine the expenses and the revenue, and then the court assists in making decisions, especially when it comes to spending money.
Right.
And so those, you have to make the best decisions you can.
There's two ways of looking at spending, though. You're either spending it or you're investing it. Spending comes with a waste, but also using the money as an investment, comes with an investment and a return.
Oh, that's an excellent point.
Yeah.
I never thought about that. All right. One of the things in fiscal court that the magistrates kind of they kid each other about it, but it's fairly serious, is how the money is divided up among the districts for road repairs and asphalt. And the reality is that, I've seen over the last 10 years, we've seen asphalt prices continue to, and when those prices go up, the revenue given to the magistrates for paving doesn't
keep up.
And so they've been able to do less and less. Fortunately, there's some discretionary money that can be available from time to time to help the magistrates with their paving in their districts. Are you satisfied with this process, the way it works now?
I understand how it works. I can argue both ways that it is fair on a per square foot basis or per mile basis.
Right.
So I can argue that is fair. But when your roads are in need, it's not fair. And if your roads aren't in need, is it fair to help the other person? And I thought that might be the thing after hearing, a few of the magistrates talk about the roads. But after talking with, Brad Spalding, who's in charge of the road department,
right,
he'll quickly tell you there's never enough.
Right, exactly.
Your money runs out. So most likely, even though you may want to help the other magistrates, you pretty much can't take care of your roads.
Right.
And so, there's state funds available, like you said. There's what they call the flex fund that the county and the court has tapped into before. The big one is the governor. He personally has a discretionary fund account, and if you pretty much have to be able to get along with the governor.
Right.
And then I don't know how you want to say it, but you have to be nice and be not compromise or however you want to do it, but you've got to be able to reach across the aisle as a Republican. You've got to be able to do the right things in order to make sure that the governor wants to take care of your area and your town and county.
Right, and I think Brad Spalding is an exceptional engineer, and I think one of the things that he is able to do to assist the court is to show the need. You have to have the engineering to back up, we need this, we need need this, and so if without that evidence, without that proof, the governor wouldn't really look at your need that you're showing him.
He's very sharp pencil in our box, that's for sure. He does a great job.
Right.
MT, a multi-purpose indoor sports facility's been high on a lot of people's lists, and we've discussed it with, I think, every candidate we've had in here. But would you favor using the county money for helping to establish that, or?
Nobody wants that more than me, being a sports guy. And I work in E-Town. I'm not involved in politics over there at all, but I do envy some of their sports complex that they have. From the trampoline to the bouncy place to the swimming pools to the indoor facilities that they have. So that part I do envy. I'm not a big fan of using taxpayer money to fund this thing because when you look at most of these places, it's extremely expensive.
Yes.
And when you looked at the top three of my challenges, the sports complex wasn't on that. Now, if the city is involved in this, which they are already, I'm all for with assisting and helping that come around, meaning that if there's a few incentives that the county can help with, I want that to be a part of it. And I'll definitely be the biggest cheerleader for this thing to get up and running and going. But I think there's private funds that need to be, I think we need to educate. I think we need to entice and invite and talk to a lot of the business people that have money and want to do this, because I got a feeling the interest is going to be pretty strong. If there's a dollar to be made out of it, somebody with the investment style would want that opportunity.
Well, it has been mentioned in every discussion with every candidate, not only in this election cycle, but the last election cycle.
Right, and we have to really understand how our economy, how our lives are evolving. You hear everybody talk about how we've lost the bowling alley, we've lost the theater. Those things aren't coming back to Bardstown.
Right.
It doesn't matter how bad you want it, they won't make money. If they did, somebody would have it.
Right.
And that's just a fact of how our lives are changing, and what we have to be able to do is brainstorm and be ahead of what's coming next. And I don't know if there's enough of that, but I'm going to bring that. The idealism of, what is the county needing? What is our children utilizing and wanting to do? Not so much what somebody who's 50-plus years wanting to do.
Right. Right. Well, I tend to agree with you that I think there's enough resources, enough business and industry here to be able to fund the multi-purpose center without dipping into tax dollars. Now, of course, city and county can provide in-kind services, and they have
Yes.
the role. But I agree. I don't think and of course beyond construction, you've got the ongoing operation of it, and as is often mentioned, the aquatic center in Lebanon
It's very expensive.
Is expensive to operate, and it's subsidized by tax dollars.
You hit the nail when you hit multi-purpose sports. Because the next facility we have will be multi-purpose, and it will need to be multi-purpose in order to attract a lot of the population that we have, not just in our city, but from the outside county, from our rural communities. They're going to want and need to help, this thing thrive. And so whether that ends up being soccer, basketball, football, swimming, I haven't heard anybody say anything about gaming. You want to bring kids into a multi-sports complex.
Yeah.
Why not bring gaming?
That's a great point.
Nobody's talking about that. That's the idea that I want to bring to the table.
If you can get it past the stage, yeah.
No, not that gaming. I'm talking video gaming. Not that gaming.
Yeah. Well, I think about my son. He just turned 26. And that's probably what he's doing right now.
Sure.
After he took the garbage down, he's up playing whatever multi-person game.
And sports, outdoor sports is a great thing we have in Nelson County, and a lot of our facilities have thrived over that. But if you want this multi-sport complex to go, you got to bring them all in. And there's probably 30-40% of kids that would rather play video games than play a physical game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, yes.
Right.
Well, MT, now I remember, I don't know how many years it's been, but when the county purchased the property for the Nelson County Industrial Park, that was just, 100 some acres of open land, and the county had to build the infrastructure, bring in the gas line, had to be bored underneath the parkway. And there was some substantial money invested to create that park. And I can remember hearing people talk about, well, they'll never get it full. Nobody, that there just wasn't a lot of investment going on. But as we see today, it's just about out of land that can be developed for industry. But the county, and at the back in those days, there was a lot of debate. Does the county have a role in industrial development? And obviously, the community was the winner in the decision to buy the property and invest in it. What are your thoughts on that? Because the city is basically out of industrial park land, and so is the county, and we have this may have some opportunities from the battery plant going in Hardin County to have some spin-off or ancillary industry that may want to locate here. What do you think about what do you think the county government's role is in helping business and industry?
That was my number one challenge. The industrial park and the land and fund needed in order for our county to thrive is going to be pivot on that. And you hit the nail on the head with the electronic vehicles and the battery plants that's coming to Elizabethtown in the Glendale area. Toyota, Japanese maker, just announced one in Bowling Green. So the boom that happened when people were against it, that thrived, was probably the bourbon boom. I know several or one or two bourbon companies bought up a lot of that land, and that's helped out and helped our community quite a bit. It's nothing compared to what we're getting ready to see.
Right.
With the battery plants and understanding the downline businesses that come from those plants. It's not just bourbon that happened back then. It was, but what grew that was the bourbon. But over here, you can end up with 5 different types of businesses, and if you don't have the industrial park ready and available, so we don't have time to fight on this and talk about it for 4 more years.
Right.
In 4 years, they're going to be up and running, and other businesses will be already established. So this has to get done within the next 1 to 2 years and happen fairly quickly. And I'm all for the government's role, not so much being in the land or real estate business,
right.
But being the shaker and mover to get that ready for our county, to be able to take advantage of it. We have a great team on our commerce team
absolutely.
that goes out and hustles this business for our county. But just like in the produce business, you can't hustle and sell produce
If you don't have it.
if I don't have produce to get.
That's right.
So if you want to sell Nelson County, we better have some land and ready for them to build on.
The lack of sanitary sewers is one of the housing grows in the county. What do you think the county government's role will be in helping with that situation?
Our job as a county, in the county government, and this is talking to several of the leaders as well, Brad being one of those, the main thing is we're not here to sell sewers and water. The city does some of that, and for us. What we have to be able to do is find the most economic way to get to the next place without having to go all the way to the end of the counties, which would be too expensive to do anything. And make that economical and feasible with the city. Again, we've got to reach across and work with the city in order to get, make it a win-win for them as well as the county and city. And if it's not a win-win, the city's not going to do anything for it. And if it doesn't win for the county, we're just wasting taxpayers' money. So I'm not for that either. I am for working together with that city administration and city officials in order to find that area. Because I'm talking to Brad, going out toward your place, you can only go so far before the sewers start rolling back. What do you need when it rolls back? You got to have a pump station. I'm not in the pump station business. I asked Brad, what's a pump station cost? Can I get one for $20? He's $20 million.
Yeah.
That's not even on my list to fund. So we got a lot of other things to fund before we get to building pump stations. But working with that county, working with the city officials is going to be critical in order for us to obtain the areas that we need and the water and sewage in order for us to put that out there so that people can develop these housing areas, apartment areas and stuff like that.
Well, years ago, I'm sure you remember Corman's Crossing out to Deatsville. private developers built the line, the sewer line to head out there, and just look what that having that available did for development in the whole area. It just kind of exploded. So you know, we can see what
We can learn from some of that too.
that's right. Everything okay, Mel? All right, good deal. All right. In the last year or so, county government has taken on the role of the Nelson County Humane Society as far as their operation of the the animal shelter. And of course, with the pandemic and everything after that, I think the Humane Society, pardon me, was having trouble getting enough volunteers because they're basically staffed with volunteers. And I think that they had done it so many years, and I think there was a desire for them to exit the operation of it, and the county has taken it over, agreed to hire another animal control officer, and pay for part-time staffing. Is animal control a need, you think, that the county, of course, our county is 46,000 in population or so. Is animal control an important need? I mean, you hear people talk about it, it's not, but yet, if you're a pet owner, it is. I mean, you need, and if you talk to law enforcement, they don't want to go to a scene where there's a vicious dog and they're not experienced handlers.
Right.
So, but what are your thoughts on the continued funding of that operation with the county?
Current funding right now seems, and I know, a little about that,
Right.
just due to having the one guy that was there and then hiring the assistant. And I'm all for the help and the animal control. But I'm a firm believer that the reason the Humane Society probably backed out, I don't think they were looking for reasons to get out. I think they had a help issue. Everybody did during the pandemic.
Sure.
Why not retouch that? Even with maybe the Humane Society surely is not the only organization that can operate those housing and operate that service for counties.
Right.
As an official, if elected, I would want to reach out to whether that's private or non-profit groups to see if that's doable, and maybe that's the first year, second year, fourth year, just to get away from the heavy expenditure that it does cost the county. So it's not about whether they're doing a good job; they're doing a great job,
Right.
as a county. But we do need to offer that, and have that available. And I think as hopefully this pandemic eases even more and we get back to some mainstream levels with volunteerism, I think we'll see that opportunity arise again.
What about the dead animal pickup?
Absolutely, a must. Having grandfathers on 2 farms and understanding the importance of keeping the county clean and sane. I love it when I'm driving up the BG and just see them picking up even the deer that are
Right.
hit even. So it's I think it goes unrecognized way too much, and people think, well, if you live in the city, you don't have a lot of need for that. But when you're in the rural areas of our county, it's utilized in a big way and needs that support.
Right.
They don't get to take advantage of a lot of the benefits that the city people do get to take care of.
Right.
So that's one way that and I don't think it's a big burden, as far as time-wise or money-wise to our county for that.
Well, sometimes even if it is, you still got to do it.
Still need it done.
It still needs being done.
Right.
Right. And I think Farm Bureau donates money each year to help defray the cost of the dead animal pickup, because if we went back 50 years and had no such service, what would farmers do? It's a lot of trouble to bury a full-grown bull or cow.
I've seen it firsthand in other counties. They don't bury them.
Yeah, they end up in a sinkhole or
Maybe
at
or
the back of the farm.
Back of the farm somewhere,
Yeah.
and that runs into the water streams.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely a plus in this county that we have.
Absolutely. It
Then
becomes
it's
a health issue.
issue.
Yes.
Then it becomes a health issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I was at the meeting when I think Adam presented the check
Yeah,
to the
that's
court.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Very good gesture for them guys to do that.
Are there any new initiatives or projects you think the county should look at in the future? This is like kind of your wish list, if you will.
Well, the wish list I have is those top three. I mean, those are going to be big ones. If we can get that landfill expansion, which is coming, and we can show that that's funded and fully taken care of, that should take care of our county for the next 50 years. And that's big. And once that's out of the way, then we can look at housing, industrial park land, that kind of stuff. That's coming. But then we can move to whether that's the jail, because a lot of people know that the jail is old. I operate two old businesses, 50 years plus. We didn't build brand new facilities. I've remodeled and reshaped. And after talking with several people that understand that jail, I have not talked with Buck yet, but I'm going to. But after talking with several of these people, they're concerned for safety. My utmost decision making will be made on those remodels. Will be made because I'm all for remodeling where you can first at every option to save the money. But it would be made on basically a safety issue for the inmates as well as the employees that we have there.
Right. I know that, and if you've attended fiscal court long enough, you know that Judge Watts has talked about, some future court will have to, may need to deal with lower revenues and increasing costs, particularly with keeping the jail operation funded and the cost of running EMS.
Right.
And of course, the county doesn't have to own its own EMS service.
Right.
Some other organization could be contracted out, but the county prefers it because they can maintain the level of service that's offered now. Whereas some contract company, you're kind of left at what they want to do, what service they see is needed, and it's important, I think, to everybody that we have good service for Northeast Nelson and the southern parts of Nelson County. Is the EMS a service you think the county will, continue to support?
I will do everything in my power, if elected, to make sure that the county has equal support on that, operating as current. Do I understand it's going to be more expensive? Yes. Everything for me got more expensive this past year on the business side. I deal with that every day. Looking at numbers and understanding those expenditures and where to pull money from in order to make that happen. Sat down with Joe Pruitt for probably an hour and discussed a lot of details. One of my opponents is wanting to do away with the lift assist because Joe really harped on how many calls he gets for lift assist. That's just not really necessary, that maybe a member, family member, or somebody could take care of. And I was, in my world, I was just like, well, that's like delivering someplace for just one apple. It doesn't make sense to do it, right? Until he explained to me it's a double-edged sword, because all of a sudden you open the county up, you open the EMS up to being liable if that one call, don't care if it's the first call or if it's the 10th, 1000th call, if it's an emergency situation,
right,
or turns into an emergency situation, we're on the hook. And with that being said, to provide good customer service, if you've got great customers, take care of them. And that's what his job is to do. He does a great job at that.
It's the health and well-being
Yes.
of the inhabitants of this county, and it's hard to put a price on that.
And he's done a great job of asking everybody from the city, the fire departments, to help with this, and they did for a little while, he said. Then they realize how expensive it and takes away from their service as well. And with that said, they just said, hey, we're out. We can't do that anymore.
But
it falls back on him.
You have elderly people living alone, or
Yes.
if someone falls, they can't get someone.
Right.
They don't have anybody to help them up. Or even if there's two or three, if they're not able to lift that person,
Right.
then yes, it's an emergency for those people.
It can be real quick.
Right.
Yes. So no, I'm all for maintaining the service that we have and not cutting that back to where it would just be a city operated or smaller operations. And I'm definitely not for outsourcing. That.
Right. Are there any specific changes that you'd like to see or pursue in how fiscal court goes about doing its business and having its meetings and that kind of thing?
Well, the meetings, we have 2 a month. Right now, they're currently operating at 9 a.m., which I don't know how many more people would come, but I'm really good because 9 o'clock a.m. is really busy for me. So I'm okay with 9 p.m. if he wants to do it. But I would suggest for the whole community style, I would want to do just one meeting, the first one of the month, being at 9 a.m. in the court where we have it now. And I would rotate the second meeting every single month to each community, each 5 districts that we have, rotate it in that district, and do it at 6 p.m. And that gives you time, if individuals want to come, they know we're coming, and put that out there that we're coming next month to this place, and you're hitting every place twice a year. And if they have they can always come to the other meetings in other districts if they want to as well, if it's an emergency or they feel like it's urgent that they need to get that point. But I'm all for talking to the community and having that transparency to be able to, allow them to come. Because most people in the working world aren't going to be able to make a 9 o'clock a meeting at the courthouse.
Right. Well, I know that the county schools have had similar initiatives where they move where the board meets, to the schools throughout their across the county, and just to give people an opportunity to come who maybe wouldn't drive to Bardstown for a meeting at central office.
Right. That's a great idea to get their input, to allow it allows them to feel like they're even part of that. Yes, and that's what needs to happen, and the county should be. Now, the candidates for jailer, I think, are pretty much in agreement that our jail really needs renovation for safety of both the inmates and the employees. And there's been expressed interest in a new jail. Of course, you're talking a major expense there. And there are a couple have mentioned the expansion of the jail. I think there's a lot next to it, but I don't think they own it. But there was discussion some years ago about either expansion or replacing the jail, but at that point, Fiscal Court opted just, I think they'd made some renovations. But a jail is an expense that you're kind of stuck with. Right. You don't want to do without a county jail, but it's not going to make money. No. It's an expense that's going to continue to be an expense. And you can do a whole lot of things with an older jail. The hardest part of that is, if what I've learned is increasing their revenue to help minimize that expense. Right. Because to increase the revenue, you have to increase risk on the level of criminals you house. I'd rather not have the high-risk criminals, personally. But I also don't want it to be a major burden. I'm not for currently building a new jail in the short term. I would love to talk about ways to rehab what is the most needed.
Evidently, there seems to be moisture issues and those kind of things, and, as well as the structure itself. And this is something that, again, we'd have to look at. Is that fixable? Is there a way around it? Is an expansion more feasible than building? And with that expansion, what comes with that? Is it status quo, the same expenses or more expenses, or is there more revenue to come in there? So there's a lot of discussions that need to happen on that jail front. And it's not that we shouldn't build one, but just because somebody wants something, I'd love to have a brand new, facility in Loretta that's 20,000 square feet, and I could take out a couple dollar stores around me. But wanting and affording is the question, and you really have to be able to look at that and understand what we can afford to do and make the best of that. But it all boils down to that safety first. That needs to take, if it's unsafe environment, whether it's the moisture or, older building stuff, we need to take care of that, fairly quickly.
Well, MT, the county owns several pieces of real estate. Of course, Dean Watts Park, which is wonderfully developed and hugely popular for sports events. They also own the former library, I'll call it, over here on Court Square, and then the former building that the state unemployment office had down by the county road barn. There's been people have been critical of the county for kind of being in the real estate business, but if you look at each property, there's been a reason for that, and for example, the old library, the county got involved with that because that's such a key property on the Court Square. And if it could have just kind of fallen into ruin if if it was in hands that really wasn't interested in upkeeping it. And I think it's become a really nice,
It's an
asset
asset.
now. And I would, I was skeptical at first too. Of course, I remember when it was the post office many moons ago, but I was a little skeptical too. But I mean, things have worked out well for that. And then, are you satisfied with the county's properties that, does the county have too much property? Or, this is almost a case-by-case thing,
You just hit the nail on my head. It becomes a case-by-case scenario. Just because the county owns or operates and a rental property or has it, if it's a senior citizen, and they're donating it, I think that's a great thing. So you can't look at, what the building that the senior citizens operate compared to what the art building or what the old library does or what another office building does that maybe the state pays you money on.
Right.
So I'm all for, just like I do in my businesses, you have to look at things every single month, every single meeting, every single quarter, every single year ongoing. And that doesn't ever change. And in order to make those decisions, and all of a sudden when needs change or vice versa, money changes, you have to make the right decision in order to liquidate that and do something else with your assets.
All right. Well, of course, when you look at the list of properties, I did mention the Civic Center. I mean, the Civic Center is a wonderful facility, and they collect rent from the Lincoln Trail Health Department on one side, and then the UK Ag. I can't think of the name. Extension offices on the other.
Yeah.
As well as whatever rent
Right.
they charge for the use of the auditorium.
Yeah, well, they're providing community services. I mean, and things like the library. I mean, if we didn't have the library, all these community groups that moved there don't have another place to meet.
Without having to pay for it, right?
Right. And so there are services you really can't put a price on as to what it means to the community.
Right. You brought the library up. I am hawked in on the library's budget. That is very extensive compared to other counties around us.
Right.
That needs to be looked at immediately because I do feel like there is a lot of money in that library budget that needs to be held accountable to understanding of why and how come. They may have great explanations for it that I look at it and go, that's cheap. But off on the cover of what I'm just looking at, if I had managers in that scenario, they're going to have to explain why and how come. And it's just because it sticks out like a sore thumb. And so I don't want to say it needs to be or should be. The only thing I'm saying is that I will look at that in a very aggressive way as far as being able to see what is the services that they are offering for that money and where is that money going to provide for our communities. Because the libraries, like you said, a great need, and they do a great service.
It's a huge asset to the community.
Absolutely. Don't want to do anything to them other than hold accountable to where the money is being spent and why. And if they can show that our services are way more and above what the other counties are doing, I'm all for that.
Right now, and I'm sure you're aware of this, there's a tremendous shortage of single-family homes, and the prices have really, really increased, and it's hard to, homes get on the market and they sell in less than a week sometimes.
And there are no starter homes anymore.
Right.
I mean, what people used to call starter homes.
Yeah.
You just can't find them.
This reminds me of the time when I moved back into Bardstown in '96. During that 94 to 98 time, you could buy a 3-bedroom bath and a half for $30-some thousand. And within that time period, within a very short period of 2 to 4 years there, it became $65,000.
Right.
So when you look at what we're going through right now, we have experienced that before and we survived. And we will survive this. It will become a new norm.
Right.
To answer your question on affordable housing, it takes an enormous amount of massaging by the economy in order for that to happen. Meaning that wages back then were 6, 7 and a quarter, moving to 9, type of thing, and moving up. And we're talking good wages back then, but that will actually work in the advantage of the consumer in our county. It seems very hard now, and I know it probably seemed very difficult back then. But we will work through that. That's going to be, and we will do the right thing in order to make sure that the sewers and the water is in those areas, and let the private sector take over from there. And because when that demand is that high, they're licking their chops to build more houses. Now, the hard part right now is getting the materials to do that.
Well, and paying for it.
And paying for it.
Because the cost has risen so much that it's, you're seeing these very ordinary houses going for over $200,000.
Right. And demand is
To
outstripping our supply
3,000
right now,
now.
for sure. But that'll come back around.
All right, well, MT, we've got to get these last commercial messages in.
Okay.
Sure.
And then we'll be back for your closing statements.
I appreciate that.
All right, you're listening to Bradford and Brooks on WBRT, and we'll be right back. All right, you're back with Bradford and Brooks and our special guest today, MT Harned, who's a candidate for Republican candidate in the May primary in the third magisterial district. Well, MT, we're just about down to the wire, so I thought I'd let you have an opportunity to wrap us up today.
Well, I sure appreciate it. I want to thank you both for having me. I also want to thank all my family and friends who's helped me with my campaign. I want to thank the leadership of the county for giving me their time and energy and some of their knowledge on talking about the issues. I want to thank each voter so far in my campaign that's opened their doors to talk with me, as well as answering their phones to discuss the issues, and those who have allowed me to place the sign in their yards. I do appreciate that, and then I thank the future one, because I still have 3 weeks to go, and I'm going to hit the ground running. I'm an honest, hardworking guy that has a very grateful heart. I'm pro-life, I'm pro-gun, and I'm definitely pro-First Amendment on the first and free speech. I'm pro-police and first responders. I encourage each and every one to look closely at all the candidates and hire or vote who you want and who you think will do the best job for you. I think you'll find that I am that right person at the right time and for all the right reasons. Thank you, and God bless Nelson County.
All right, well, MT, we are just about down to the wire. Thank you so much for coming in today.
I appreciate it very
I've
much.
had a great time in our discussions, and as I usually tell Margie, sometimes what we talk about off the air it could be a show on its own. All right, that's it for Bradford and Brooks today. Stay tuned for the best in local news and obituaries here at the top of the hour, and Margie and I will be back with additional candidates between now and May 17th. Yes. So check back with Bradford and Brooks next week. Until then, have a great week, everybody.
Hometown Radio, WBRT Bardstown, 1320 AM, 97.1 FM, and on 94.9 FM in Lebanon, playing all the classics from country's legends.